Forgiveness is letting go of things that are beyond your control. I first learned about practical forgiveness in a book by Catherine Ponder called The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity. In it, there's a chapter on how to forgive, and she goes through steps of a few times a day, go through your memory of all the people who have ever wronged you and forgive them. That is, you would say to yourself something like, they should not have done that, but I'm not going to hold it against them. I'm going to let go of it. I'm going to let it go. And you might do that 2 or 3 times a day, or as it turns out for me, it was every time I thought about it, about forgiving everyone, I would go through a list of anyone I could think of and essentially say that same thing. They should not have done that, but I'm not going to hold it against them. I'm going to let go of it. There's an interesting video by Stephen Marmer, a UCLA psychiatrist, on forgiveness, in which he talks about exoneration, forbearance, and release. In exoneration, he talks about essentially letting go of any wrong in a situation in which the person who wronged you was not intending to wrong you. They are truly contrite about it. They regret it happening, and the relationship is restored to what it was before. And I think a lot of times people think of forgiveness as being that. That at the end of the forgiveness they say, oh, it's okay, we'll go on, which would happen with exoneration. But the forgiveness that I am talking about is the letting go of things that are beyond your control, regardless of how the wrongdoer may think of the situation. I recommend the video by Stephen Marmer. It's a PragerU video. It's well worth watching. Stephen Marmer's focus seems to be more on relationships, although he does touch on letting go of grudges. I would say that when something is beyond your control, not letting go of it is not in your best interest. If someone cuts you off on the freeway and you're bothered by that for the rest of the day, you'd probably be better off to just let it go. They should not have cut you off, but if you let go of it, you're not dwelling on it, say for the rest of the day or the week or however long it may be that you're offended, rightly so, about being cut off on the freeway. When I first encountered the Ponder book, I was on a family vacation. While we were on the vacation, I was reading the book, and so it kind of kept fresh in my mind on a regular basis that I could let go of things that had bothered me. And it turns out that after I did that, there were several problems in my life that just kind of evaporated. I think there was a woman who lived in the neighborhood who was really quite problematic. She was said to have given drugs to kids. It was really a pretty bad situation. And it was very offensive to me, and while I was on that vacation, I decided that she should not be doing that, but I'm not going to hold it against her. I'm going to let go of it. Now, if she had done something illegal, I'm not saying that after forgiving her, I would be okay with her doing the illegal thing. We live in a rule of law, in a country with a rule of law. That should not happen, and she should be prosecuted for illegal activity, forgiveness or not. So there were several situations, several unpleasant situations that after I forgave them, they kind of just evaporated. And certainly I'm not saying that forgiveness will alleviate any problems you may have. It might, some problems, but it may make it easier to solve the underlying problem. That is, again, forgiveness will not necessarily solve the problems, but it will likely make it easier to solve the underlying problem. There's also a book by Fred Luskin called Forgive for Good. He did work with people in Northern Ireland who had lost children or relatives in the fighting that was going on in Ireland, and he worked with them on techniques of forgiveness. He outlines the techniques in his book. Well, he describes the techniques in his book. After the people went through the exercise of forgiveness, they reported being happier and healthier. Dr. Fred Luskin of the Stanford University Forgiveness Project has done quite a bit of work with doing forgiveness and has demonstrated that forgiveness will indeed make a person happier and healthier. And in fact, after practicing forgiveness, and it's probably been 10 years that I've been deliberately thinking in terms of practicing forgiveness, my life has been healthier and indeed happier. And I've noted that it's difficult to feel like a victim when you have let go of the things that others have done that have wronged you. Very difficult to be a victim. It's more like feeling as though I have overcome adversity anytime that there has been indeed adversity. And the last thing I would point out regarding forgiveness is a video about Eva Kor. She was a Nazi death camp survivor. She was one of twins that Nazi doctors did experiments on because they were doing experiments on twins who had wronged her. And in her video, she points out that she had the power to forgive them. No one could take the power from her. No one could give her the power to forgive. It was hers alone. And she did indeed forgive them. And in the closing statements of the video, she accurately mentions, we can't change the past. We can only change how we respond to it. And that is indeed what forgiveness is all about, how you respond to the past.